5 reasons, though, while I love children, I don't want any. Number one, I have a pretty pessimistic worldview. I think the world sucks economically. People are struggling to afford their lifestyles. And I feel like that's only going to get worse for the time being. Socially, I'm Black. So whoever I would have a kid with, regardless of their color, my child would still be Black. And walking through life that way, it's not an experience I would want my child to have. It's not conversations that I would want to have because I don't feel like I should have those conversations. I don't think the world should be that way, yet that's what it is. So I don't want to pass on some of the hurt that comes with the Black experience, though it's fantastic. There are, lots of great things. There's lots of bad things. So no thanks. Environmentally, world's in shambles. And I'm not interested, bro. I think the world sucks. So why would I want to bring my child into that, Reason number 2, kids do not just stop at like the baby infant stage, no matter how freaking cute they are. You are a parent. You are raising somebody. You are cultivating their worldview. Every single word you say matters. It could be just a regular schmegular Tuesday for you, but that could be their villain origin story. Like, I just don't want that type of pressure. And we aren't perfect as humans. So I feel like it's sort of inevitable to try and like not to traumatize your kid, but you end up doing it. So it's just like, no thanks. Reason number 3 is I know myself very well, and I don't think I would have the bandwidth. I really don't. The idea of coming home from work and having to do homework, having to make a well-balanced meal. When I thrive off of a good girl dinner, sometimes no dinner at all. It's just, I don't want the responsibilities of being a parent, and having a 9-to-5 in the corporate world takes a lot out of me. Maintaining my social life and a future relationship, I feel like I'm just going to be fulfilled. I don't think that I need to have children. And that goes into point number 4, being that kids are optional. I grew up always wanting kids. Like, it was just, I'm going to have kids, point blank, period. My culture reinforced that. But I just got to 25, honestly. And I said, wait, I have a choice. And I thought about it. And I just think raising a child is such a task. It is. And it's, you don't know what type of kid you're going to get. You have to tailor everything to your child. And I just think it's one of the hardest jobs in the world. Also one of the most rewarding, but I just thought, in my opinion, critically about having a kid. And I was just like, yeah, just because I can doesn't mean I have to. So I'm choosing not to. And reason number 5 is I am not attached to my genetics and my genetic makeup. Like, I don't care to have a lineage, not a legacy, because those 2 words be fucking y'all up. But yeah, if I ever change my mind and decide I want to be a mom, there are options. I can adopt. I can foster. I don't have to physically push a kid out of me, which is, a bonus reason. Let's make that reason number 6. Having a kid can be life-threatening. Postpartum just ain't it. And again, as a Black woman, it's just not it. But yeah, I would overall like to make someone's life better, rather than bringing a child into the world that I don't love. For things that are just so out of my control, that having a kid is within my control and I'm choosing not to do it. It just hurts too much to think about what can happen to my kid, unbeknownst to me, and just naturally. It's just like, no, I don't want that. So yeah, I love kids, but I won't be having them.
Over this summer, I've come to the conclusion that I don't want to have children. And that one decision has sort of completely transformed my mental health and existential anxiety for the better. If you followed me for a while, I've just really struggled with feeling behind in life or feeling like I'm running out of time. And I've realized a lot of that comes from this internalized timeline I have of my life where children are involved, and these are children that I've realized I don't I don't want. And there are a lot of reasons for this. I think the thing that really sealed the deal was just grappling with the reality of where this country and this world is at, and the hatred and like the climate change. It just doesn't feel right for me personally to bring more life into this earth. And then really starting to understand the fact that I come from a long line of alcoholics, myself included, and realizing like I don't think these genes need to be passed on. Like, never felt a motherly instinct in my life, never felt, called to be a mother. People say like, oh, once you get older, you'll realize it. But like each year as I get older, kids like disgust me more. And a couple years ago, I had a cancer scare where getting a hysterectomy, aka taking my uterus out, was one of the options being laid on the table. I was not devastated at all by like me personally not being able to have kids. I only felt super guilty that I wouldn't be able to give my parents grandkids, and it's like that's not a good reason to be having kids. So putting all that together and being like, I don't think that's my journey, and it feels like, oh my God, I can breathe because I'm actually not in any sort of rush anymore to get to some destination where I feel like I'm ready to have kids. Put so much pressure off me with having to find a partner. I'm gonna be 29, so I'm like, wait, maybe I'll find a partner when, the first rounds of divorces come up here in my early 30s. I can see myself being a second wife. I think that's kind of hot. My career, it's like, okay, well now there's no huge rush to get settled in and super successful in a career so I can support children. No. Really exploring the idea of getting another master's, but that would allow me to work in mental health and substance abuse recovery. And I just think that'd be a great conclusion to my story. But I've been like, no, that's gonna take me way too long to get reestablished in a whole new career, go back to school, get licensed, all that stuff. But now I'm like, if I'm not in a rush to start a family, I have nothing but time. Why not? What else am I gonna do? So yeah, RIP to my unborn children. You guys probably would have been boys and then I wouldn't have liked you, so it's fine.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about my decision to be child-free. Now, I'm 44 and there is a lot that is said on this app around it as a subject, but I thought the thing that might be most helpful is to explain like some of the decision making around it, and also how that journey is not always so linear. The reason why I'm talking about this is because I've got a paperback novel coming out today called This Is Fine, published by Penguin, and it looks at this topic of being child-free and what nurture looks like when you don't have children, and maybe you do have siblings and nieces and nephews. When I was younger, I always assumed I would have kids, and I didn't really think about it particularly deeply. It's just that my cultural background is Indian, it's what my parents and their generation did, and I just assumed that I would get married to someone at some point and then we would have kids. And I just thought, yeah, of course, that's like what happens, right? I don't know that I really asked myself whether or not I wanted to be a parent, whether or not I thought I would be a good mother. It just seemed like that was the path that was open to me, or had to be open to me. And when I look back in retrospect, I'm just really surprised of it, because I don't come from like an overly traditional family, and I would say I'm not an overly traditional person. In my late 20s, I was sort of getting really upset about the fact that I hadn't really met anyone significant, I hadn't been in like a significant relationship for a while. And, that there was that whole pressure of, oh my God, I'm going to turn 30. I need to meet someone. I need to get married. It's never going to happen for me. I keep dating all of these fools. Why? And then I'd given up on dating, and I then ended up getting set up with a man by a mutual friend, and I thought it was going to be terrible, and it was not terrible. It was wonderful, and this person ended up being the person that I would marry. His name was Rob. Rob and I were very aligned on the same goals, like in terms of our ethics, in terms of our politics, in terms of how we wanted to raise a family. And kids was something that we spoke about almost immediately. But again, it wasn't like with any particular deep thought. It was just this sort of like unit and this family that we kind of wanted to build together. And that was just seen as like a natural progression as part of what we were supposed to do. And in effect, I couldn't really distinguish that from actually what we wanted to do. Who has read my work, especially my nonfiction, will know that Rob tragically passed away 10 years ago, and he had really major issues. He had chronic depression, and he also had a very crippling addiction that I didn't know about when we met and when we got married, and it was something that was revealed halfway through our marriage. Kind of didn't really talk very much about kids at this time, but he had to stay in a psychiatric hospital for part of it. And during one of the stays, we had to have a conversation about whether or not we were going to be able to have kids together. And it was the most heartbreaking conversation I think that I've ever had, like ever. And it was the moment that we realized that though we loved each other deeply, and though kids had always been part of this like big dream, like this big idea that we had, that we were not going to be able to raise and have these kids together. And that actually Rob might not be able to do that himself, because that was the severity and the extent of his addiction. Now, whether or not that would have changed based on his recovery and what his trajectory was like, I will never know. And in the last few months before he died, we were separated and we were talking about how we were going to save our marriage. And our marriage was really the thing that kind of had front and center. And I think the kids thing underpins some of it. And the reason I'm sharing all of this is because I've already written about it. And so I'm going to ask people to be considerate and kind in the comments. Now, he died, and it was the most devastating, the worst thing that had happened. But after he died, like, life wasn't anything resembling like normal or functioning really for at least about a year or two. And when I was sort of like just even being able to think about things, and this would have been when I was roughly about maybe 37, I was seized with this idea that, yeah, maybe I could have kids and I'd do it alone, and, you know, I'd adopt or I'd have kids via a donor. And that was when I had to get really intentional about why I wanted children and whether or not I could whether I was going to be a fit person to raise them. Really and truly, I think that's when I made, it wasn't a definitive decision, but I was like, I don't think that this is going to be this is not for me. It's not just about raising a child alone, because I can imagine like people are going to comment about that, but it was about me as a potential mother and as a parent, and whether or not I could do that, or if I wanted to meet someone, right, in order to be able to have kids with them and obviously be in a functioning relationship. But because of the circumstances, I had to do that really deep work to ask myself whether this is something I wanted. And that was when I realized that it wasn't something that I wanted. People who have kids, who find them very joyful, who love them for whatever their reasons, right? Like some people's reasons are they had their own traumatic childhoods, and so children are a chance for them to start, you know, afresh and to have unconditional love. All of that, that's your own business, right? But I knew that the reason why I had even thought about wanting to bring kids into the world was to create a life that would be its own person. And also, I wanted to think about the impact that it would have on me as a person. Like, what would it bring out of me, right? And when I sat down and thought about all of those things, I knew that I was not going to be the right person. When I turned 40, that solidified into a line of like, now I definitely know I don't want kids. And you can talk about biology and all of this shit, but that was when mentally I knew I definitely didn't want kids. And the reason why I'm sharing all of this with you is because it's to say that sometimes for some people, the journey isn't linear, right? And the moment that I realized, by the way, that I didn't want kids, was the moment that I was able to be so much more generous and loving and nurturing to the other kids in my lives, like, you know, my friends and family and their kids. And it changed everything for me. It changed the motivation for why I might go on a date with someone. It changed, you know, the things that I might need from a partner. It changed how expansive I felt and how generous I wanted to be with my own life and my own home in terms of how much I give. And when I think back to, you know, my time with Rob, who I loved very much, but had we had children, I don't know that would have been the right decision. And the thing that you sometimes feel, especially at this age, is, you know, what is your purpose? Because the majority of people around me have children and most of them are married. And I would say that while a lot of them get so much joy from their children in flashes and in moments, it's not like an everyday fucking joy fest. But I don't envy their lives. I don't look at their lives and I think that's what I want. There are sometimes when I witness like an interaction or the bond between, especially like a daughter and a mother, but then I go home and like I do my own thing and I have my own friends and family and I have my work and I have 100 other things that give me a sense of purpose. And it doesn't feel lonely. When I witness the loneliness in other parents because of how badly the society sometimes supports them, especially mothers, there is a part of me that feels a lot of compassion. It doesn't make me feel envy, you know? And I think that by the time you get to my age, you understand that these things are not as black and white. And people who are trying to bend you to their cause in terms of, you know, pressuring you to have children, who are telling you that your life is going to be empty and pointless without it, it's just not true. And in fact, most oftentimes, the people who are saying those things, respectfully, they're not happy in their own lives, or they lack such empathy and diversity in their own friendship circle that they cannot see what it is like for other people. And those are the people who are never going to understand what your life is like either. Anyway, that was a bit of an overshare, wasn't it?
Reasons why I don't want to have kids. This world is not safe enough for me to push out babies. I don't want to give birth to a serial killer or a school pew-pewer. Men are too unpredictable for me to like actually think that he's gonna stay in the kid's life. And not even just stay, but even like be emotionally present. Men are not known to be really responsible, so I'm not putting my life in the hands of an irresponsible man. I refuse to be a married single mother. I don't want to have to take care of the kid, take care of my husband, take care of the house, go to work, come back, cook a home cooked meal every day. I'm not doing that. While my man's sitting there looking incompetent, acting like he can't help me, like that would piss me off. I need alone time. After work, like I be so overstimulated. I don't want to hear, mommy, mommy. No. I don't like that if I have a child and I raise them to be amazing human beings, some other people, raggedy kids, could mess up my kid and influence my kid and undo all my hard work. That would piss me off. I feel like as soon as you're born into this world, like trauma is handed to you. Like trauma has been planned already in your life as soon as you are born into this earth. I don't want to subject my child to that. I love my child so much. I don't want them to have trauma. Like, I had trauma, so I don't want to put you on this earth and have you go through anything that is heartbreaking like that. Sometimes I don't even like being on this earth. So, like, why would I bring a child into this earth? No. I think I'm a little too selfish to have a child because I need my own time. I need my own space. I need something that is mine. So it would kind of piss me off that like you're constantly bombarding my space. I need my personal space. Like, love you, but I love you too much to bring you out into this world.
But the real reason why parents are triggered by the childless is because we don't feel the need to have a child to be socially accepted, be happy, or feel like somebody. A lot of people have kids because they've been programmed to believe that's what they're supposed to do. And if you don't do that, then you're not doing what society expects of you. So how dare us be the rebels and be happy without fitting into that norm? How dare us feel whole without having children? How dare us be happy? How can you be happy without kids? And this is what leads to the projection. You're projecting because deep down inside, I'm a reminder of everything that you're not. And a reminder of everything that you don't have anymore because you chose to have kids. I'm whole and happy on my own, which is something you weren't able to do. So you had a kid to feel better about yourself. I have slow mornings. I can do what I want with my time. I can wake up at 11 a.m. on a Saturday and not have to worry about changing diapers. I haven't been up since 3 a.m. with a screaming, crying baby. I'm not sleep deprived. I don't have to wake up at 6, 7 a.m. to go drive 2 hours to a baseball tournament for my son. I'm sleeping in. I'm going to walk my dog. I'm going to plant some flowers. I'm going to do what makes me happy. I can do whatever I want with my time, and that pisses you off. You hate it. You hate that I did not fall for what you fell for, and now you're trapped until you feel the need to project. Because let's be honest, a lot of women that have postpartum depression, it's because in a single moment, reality hit for you. It's not just about the change in estrogen levels. No, it's the fact you were holding that baby one day and you were like, oh my God, what did I do? I haven't slept. I'm tired. I haven't showered. My old life is completely gone. Everything has changed now. And when that hits, when that reality hits, it hits hard to the point where you have depression now. And you mad at me because I'm not. But if you were to admit that, then you're a bad parent. You're a bad parent. So you stay in denial. You pretend that being a mother is all sunshine and roses and daisies. And you stay in denial for your whole damn life instead of being honest about the reality of parenthood, which is that shit is not easy. And a lot of it ain't fun. And you mad at me. For realizing those things. This coffee is delicious.
Okay, so I came to Starbucks with my dogs. They got pup cups. They're very happy. But I thought, here's what I got. I got a grande ice white mocha with pistachio sauce. This is about to be like extremely good. I don't know what these people are doing. I'm like parked in the parking lot. There's a road right here. Sometimes it's entertaining to sit and watch how stupid people drive, but this is so good. I thought I would come on here and explain. So I'm a very much child-free by choice woman. I make a lot of posts about it, but I don't think I've ever explained why I don't want children. And I think it's a very informative thing to talk about because a lot of other women feel the same way, but feel like weird for thinking this way because like society tells you should feel weird for thinking that way, even though like you shouldn't. So for me, background, I worked in childcare for like 7 years of my life. I worked in after school care all through college, and I was an overnight camp counselor at like a summer camp for a year, and then babysat as a teenager. So I've been around kids my whole life. I have a sister who's 11 and I'm 26, so I like saw her grow up as a baby. Like, I've been around children my whole life. I've taken care of children for a lot of my life. Like, I don't hate children. I actually love children. I think children are great. But when you've worked with them as much as I have, I think it is a really good eye-opener to the things that you do and don't want in life. And it's an eye-opener to how children actually are. It's not this like fantasized reality. Like, it's like you see the true reality of like how kids act when their parents aren't around and how hard it is on parents and all this stuff. Like, I've seen the true reality of having kids and the effect that it has on like the child when their parent sucks, and like the effect it has on the kid when, or the parent when, like, you know, they have kids and like they have so much stuff to do and everything. So seeing all of that really just made the decision very easy for me that I do not want that for myself. I'm very much the kind of person who likes my peace and quiet. I like my routines. I have 2 dogs, but like we've gotten their routine so down that like it doesn't bother me. Like they know their routine and they stick to it, and they're very good dogs. So being a dog mom is so much different than being a real mom, right? So it's like I can handle dogs. I love my babies. They're like sick of, they want another pup cup. But when you think about motherhood, it really changes who you are as a person. You have to completely change who you are as a person, and I'm not willing to do that. Call me selfish, whatever. Maybe I am a little bit selfish for thinking that way, but I truly don't want to change who I am to be someone's mom. Also, I know that I would not be a great mother. I get easily annoyed and irritated at things. I don't like it when things don't go my way. I love a routine, and I like it when the routine stays the same, and you cannot do that with a kid. So yeah. Also, like, just seeing how many mothers deal with absentee fathers. Like, I personally dealt with that. Like, my real dad's not in the picture. But even the ones whose dads are in the picture, like, the mom still does everything. Like, everything's on the mom, even though the dad is half the parent too. And I refuse to deal with that. Like, I refuse to ever do that. I will not, have to take 80% of the responsibility for something that's only half mine. And I refuse to be a single mother, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's part of it. And then also, like, I have a fear of being pregnant. I have so much of a fear of being pregnant that I'm going to get my tubes tied soon. I do not want to be pregnant. I do not want my body to change. I have very bad body dysmorphia issues that would not benefit from me being pregnant. I have that wouldn't work. I also the thought of being pregnant makes me sick to my stomach. I'm scared of it, and I refuse to push anything out of there. No. And I don't want to be cut open either. So yeah, I don't want that. No. I've had an intense fear of being pregnant since I was a teenager. That's the fun thing about getting dogs. You don't have to push them out of you. I didn't have to push these babies out. They're just my babies. I didn't have to push them out. So those are some of the main reasons. Also, like I said, my sister was born when I was 15 years old. And I saw how hard it actually is to have a newborn baby and to have a baby. And it's something I knew from the moment my sister was born that I never wanted for myself. And when I say never, I mean never. So yeah, those are my reasons. Some of them might not seem valid to, some people. I feel like some people just think you should automatically just get married and have kids as soon as you turn 25. I'm just not that person. I'm never gonna be that person. So yeah. But those are my reasons. I thought I would explain just in case any other girls or women in general feel this way and think it's not valid. It is valid. If you just want to be selfish, it's okay to not want kids. It's worse to have kids knowing the kind of person you are, knowing that you like things a certain way and that a child wouldn't fit in there. It's better to make that decision to not have kids than to have kids and traumatize them because of the person that you are. I refuse to traumatize a child. I will not do that. I've seen like I said, I worked with kids for a long time. I've seen the effect of parents traumatizing their children, and it's not good. So I refuse to do that. And yeah, those are my reasons for not wanting kids. Thought it might help somebody. Also, guys, getting a dog is a big responsibility too. So think about that heavily before you get one. But I was like, yeah, it's a big responsibility. Say hi. She's about to bark. There's a person running. She's going to bark at that. He's not very impressed with the camera. But yeah, thought I would explain. If you have any questions about yeah, I'm gonna get off because she's barking. But if you have any questions about how I got my tube tie scheduled or about any of the reasons I gave, feel free to leave them in the comments.
Next month, my husband and I celebrate 8 years of being married. We have decided that we do not want children. And when we tell people that, because they ask, why don't you have children? Which is still like a very weird question to ask anyone. We tell them there's always reasons. I have so many reasons. And I wanted to share a few with you. One, where I currently live in Alabama, it is so unsafe to even be pregnant. Say I was having a miscarriage, which is very common. I don't know if I could get the help I needed if I was having a miscarriage and like my safety was at risk, because a lot of doctors don't want to perform those. You know, they get investigated to make sure it's not an abortion. So just one plain simple answer, I don't feel safe to be pregnant. The second one is my husband and I live a very peaceful life. We have a quiet home. We have a dog who we love and spoil and get to take care of. And the fact that we can have friends over and it's fun and inviting and exciting, I feel like if we had kids, my priority would not be having friends over or having gathering and dinner parties. Like, it's expensive to do those things. It takes a lot of time and effort. And if I had children, I just don't think, I know it wouldn't be a priority. I have sisters and friends who have kids, and they tell me over and over again, like, you can't do a lot of those things until your kids are older. And for me, hosting brings so much joy, and being around friends and family brings so much joy. And I just don't think, and I know kids would really make that more difficult. The third reason, and this is the last one I'll share today, is the cost of childcare. I've seen so many videos on TikTok. I've talked to friends who are in my area, and tell me why it's like $60,000 for childcare per child. Like, that's crazy. And I don't want to be a stay-at-home parent, and my husband doesn't want to be a stay-at-home parent, so that's out of the question. But I think those are really valid reasons. Whether or not you think that, it is valid for me, and it's the reason we aren't having kids. Well, 3 of the reasons. I have a very long list. But anyway, maybe if you're being child-free, I would love to hear why you're not being a parent to biological children.
If you are debating having children, please stop and listen.
Thank you so much to that creator for sharing the realities of motherhood. That was incredibly brave. If you haven't seen that video, I absolutely encourage you to go watch it. I don't think a lot of women who are child-free by choice share their stories. And so here I am sharing my story and my reason why I have decided to be child-free by choice. Growing up in the church, I was basically told that that was my path. I would grow up, go to college, find a man, get married, have kids, and be a mom. And when I did grow up and graduate college, I spent my 20s single, dating, and I didn't get married until I was 33. So I realized very quickly that that option was not necessarily for me. But I also realized that that wasn't an option that I was truly called towards. When I was babysitting in college and in the 20s, it was not a job that I liked. Now, I had friends that loved it. They were nannies, they babysit, and they loved being around kids. It wasn't for me. I just didn't really like it. And when I got married, admittedly, I was 33 and I was not at my healthiest. I was over 300 pounds. I was suffering from some mental health stuff. I was in a toxic job. And when I got married, of course, I've got the pressure from a lot of my family. When are you going to get pregnant? What's next for you? Etc. And I didn't feel that call. Of course, my husband and I, about every 6 months, we kept having the conversation, is now the time, and overwhelmingly every single time it was no, now is not the time. Throughout this time, I kept observing friends and family who were women who made the choice to become a mom, and some of the things that I observed is honestly the sheer loneliness that motherhood brings. I saw them beg their partners, their husbands for help and get denied. I saw them beg their parents who begged for a grandkid, poof, disappear and never become the village that they were expecting. And I also watched the paths that they had chosen, the careers, the exciting things, the dreams that they wanted also disappear because they have now given up their life for this child, which honestly, more power to you. It is a very, very tough job to become a mom, and it's also really, really hard and very lonely. Were there a few times where I felt that call? Yeah, there were. But when I reflected back on why I felt that call, two things came to mind. The first was I realized that the part of motherhood that actually called to me was investing in someone's growth. I wanted to invest and empower someone to become the best version of them. That called to me. And I realized I actually get to do that. I get to do that in my business. I'm a career coach and I get to help people become a better version of themselves in their careers and in their lives. So that scratches that itch for me. The second reason why I would feel that itch was actually not anything to do with me. I would realize that when I would feel that, the call wasn't coming from inside the house, it was coming from outside the house. It was when I was getting pressured from friends and family to have a kid because that is what we were told to do, right? Or it was from my family saying, oh, your niece and nephew, they need cousins, right? And the inner people pleaser inside of me felt, oh my gosh, if I just change the life that I have for other people, people will be happy with me. And when I stopped and I really aligned with myself, I realized, wait a minute, why would I make a life decision based on trying to please other people who are not going to be there to raise this kid? It would be all on me. I would have to give up everything. And I realized that there is this inner work that I have to do because I'm considering making a huge life change based on people-pleasing tendencies. Additionally, during this time, while we're trying to figure this out during our marriage, my husband and I left South Florida, a place that was extremely overwhelming, extremely noisy, and exacerbated my mental health issues. And we moved to a place that's quiet, is remote, and we built this peaceful life for ourselves. A life where we get to invest in each other, invest in ourselves, where we incurred a lot of healing in our healing journey, where we've built this business. And the life that we live is incredibly life-giving for both of us. And when it comes to disrupting that and giving that up to now become beholden to the schedule of this tiny human around their school and their sports and all of this other stuff, it never made sense to us. Are those the only things that have made this decision to say child-free? No, of course, there are a lot of other things. For instance, I have physical health issues where if getting pregnant, those would be exacerbated. Were there other things like the political climate that we're dealing with? Yes, absolutely, that factors in. It also factors in that getting pregnant at this age that I'm at right now is actually dangerous. It's not something that I want to really put myself through. But when I look back on my decision, I have never once regretted it. I have never once regretted sleeping in on a Saturday morning, turning to my husband and saying, you know what we should do today? And then going and doing it. I have never once regretted keeping the routines that I have and the peaceful life that I have and the business that I have, and not sacrificing that for what I feel we should have done based on society and the pressure that we've gotten from our families. I have never regretted my decision. And if you're in this position where you are afforded the choice to remain child-free, I just want to encourage you that there are other people out there that live super fulfilling lives and are incredibly happy without having a child, and that you might be feeling some of that pressure externally. And if you are, align with yourself and ask yourself if that's something that you truly want moving forward. I have never regretted ever the decision that I've made. I've spoken to women who have made a different decision and don't regret their children, of course, but regretted the past that they had to give up in order to make the decision that they did. And frankly, I've never regretted any of the past that I've given up for the path that I've chosen now. And that's my story. And I'd love to answer any questions that you have. If you do have any questions in the comment, if you are also child-free, I'd love to hear that, and meet more people like myself. But I've never once thought I would be a bad mother. I never thought my husband would be a bad father. I just realized that it's just not the path for me, and that's okay.